Do woodland beings follow you home after a walk through the woods? Yes. I laugh because I have so many stories about this. I don't know where this video is going to go, but the short answer to this question is yes, 100%, absolutely. A lot of the times that I do spirit art readings, so spirit art reading is where I tap into somebody's energy and I feel the beings around them. Could be a spirit guide, like a teacher energy to you, trying to teach you a lesson or guide you on your life path. Could be your higher self soul coming through. Could be galactics, all these different beings, or the fairies, the woodland beings, the other dimensional layers of Earth coming through. And so I draw them and then I communicate with them to be like, hey, what are they trying to announce to you? Many people have what they describe as fairies. Now, it's important to understand that fairy is a blanket stereotype word that we use based on mythology, folklore, that sort of thing. My experience is it is such a vast, complex world that that label doesn't really cut it for to describe all of the beings that are out there. So you can walk through the woods and you can pass by a gnome, an elf, a goblin, a troll, an ogre, a giant, a unicorn, uh, a yeah, I know Barklaw. I can feel my buddy Barklaw. A griffin, he's a griffin, being like, hey, what about us? A griffin, really any type of energy that can feel and experience and see into our world. It's important to remember that there are many dimensional layers of experience and reality. And depending on where you're at, you can actually experience this world at the same time. Some of these beings exist in completely different dimensions. Some of them exist in kind of like a quasi in between state. Some of them come through portals and shift vibrationally into our space to experience it, but we don't necessarily see them and they can go back to their world. That's where you get a lot of the fairy stories of going to different worlds and that sort of thing, going through like the rabbit hole with Alice in Wonderland. And so they can see us, we might not necessarily see them, and they see you and they go, I like their energy. I'm going to follow them back. Now, here's the thing. Do you have an energetic grid around yourself, around your home, that details are they allowed to come into that space, that sets up the boundaries? Because if you do, then they have to adhere to a lot of the boundaries that you've set, provided you believe, know, and feel that those are foolproof, 100% working for you. Do you have other beings around who are going to set boundaries with them? I have a couple of stories I'll get into in a minute. And so, yes, they can come. They can also go, you know what? I don't like that person. I don't like their energy. I don't like what they did here in my space. A lot of these beings, remember, they live in the forest. They live in the woodlands. You throw trash on the ground, you cut down a tree, you do something that they take as an offense, they can follow you home and start causing havoc because they don't like what you did. And as my guides would say, I have many stories you can read. So my spiritual books, I have 7 for free, I believe, on my website. One of them is called The Raven's Way, where I talk about several experiences of fairy type beings becoming malicious with other people, and me saying I want to stay out of it, and my guides and my team saying, remember, fairies will do what they want to do. It's not your problem. Stay out of it. Let them do what they're going to do. You can't stop them because they're very emotional, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are very emotional. And if they want to go after somebody, they're going to go after somebody. So it's important to understand how to relate to these beings, to respect them, to show love, kindness, honor, and treat them in that way, and treat their home like that so that you don't accidentally bring something home that isn't meant to be. Now, I've had very few experiences, if any that I can remember of me bringing something home that I didn't want to come home. I've been so aware of them that typically I've known they've come home. I do feel that a lot of poltergeist activity, and that's another video I'll probably be doing as well, a lot of that activity is actually fairy beings who are more on the physical level and just angry with people. People are like, oh, I have a ghost. And it's like, no, you have a fairy that you need to show respect to and fix the situation, fix the relationship, heal the relationship, transmute it. And so I have on occasion brought home goblins and other beings. I used to live in the more of a forest location, and our house at the time bordered the woods, 100, 200 feet away. I don't remember. I'm kind of not good with physical distance, but really it was 6 acres of land, woodlands all around. And just by kind of living in their living space, they knew that as they saw me, I would be like, hey, you are allowed in the house. I had gnomes show up. I had a gnome friend who would show up every full moon, and he was a rock gnome. He traveled out of the earth. I don't know what he did down there, but he traveled out of the earth and would visit me. There was an ogre that would come through with a little, I don't know, fairy buddy of some kind. And there were goblins, and the goblins would come through and want offerings, and they would cause chaos. They would cause chaos to the point that I had to create separate offering dishes and tell them, okay, this is for you, stay out of the rest, because they weren't in an energy of sharing. They didn't have a sharing energy. I've been walking before through fields that were soccer fields, soccer, football field type things. There was a space where I used to live that had an enormous length with between the school and the public park. They had created an enormous amount of soccer fields, and it was beautiful to go walk there because you had full sunlight and you could walk like a mile without stopping, turn around, walk a mile back, and it was just nothing but these soccer fields. And there was a post in the middle of the ground with, I believe this was one of the ones that had like an electric outlet on it. And if my memory serves right, I'd have to look at my journals, but there was a goblin standing there in the middle of nowhere, flat field, just like this is mowed, just mowed down, nothing there, no bushes, nothing. It's just a goblin perched on top of it, kind of pulling energy out of the electrical socket. And starts talking to me. He's like, oh, you can see me. I'm like, yeah. And I'm talking to it, and it hops on. I let it hop on. I had a backpack. I let it hop on my backpack and start walking back. Now, I also have a friend, Doug, the juniper gnome that I talk about often in my videos. And he's always like, hey, can we bring them home? Can we found another fairy. We found another friend. Can we bring them home? Can they come? And I have rules, and they know the rules. Like, you can't be malicious. You cannot destroy things. You have to respect my space, let me sleep, all these different things. And they know it. And it's like, as long as you respect me, I respect you, you're allowed in the house. And as long as you're not like a malicious energy type of thing. So we take this goblin back to the apartment. And here's the problem. I don't know, I don't think Doug was with me at the time. I actually shouldn't say Doug came with me. The point is, he's brought other goblins home and other gnomes and stuff. But this, I believe, was before I actually met him. But I take the goblin back to the apartment, and I was living with a brownie, which was a being living beside me, and she instantly ran out and went, get out. She ran up. She rarely left her space. She ran up to the front of the apartment and told him to get out, because it was her space too. And I told him, you have to she has to accept you. She has to say yes. She was not having it. She didn't want a goblin energy in there. They're chaotic. So yes, you can bring them home, but create rules and understand that others are living there with you, and you have the ability to push them out. And they can also follow on their own will, and it's just your willingness to accept that they followed you home to either build a relationship or, again, push them out. So much love and gratitude. If you're interested in spirit art, visit awakenwithwillow.com. Love you.